Hello, everybody. I'm Bob Mayne here. Welcome to the Modern Handgunners YouTube channel. And with me is
Ben Branam from Modern Self-Protection. And today we're going to be talking about cleaning guns because, well, like you and us, we're probably stuck at home with not as much to do as, well, we thought we'd have to do, right? And you know what? It might be a good time to take that gun out and give it a good cleaning, or at least a field strip and a field cleaning.
And this is a subject, Ben, that I don't like. I don't like cleaning guns, but it has to be done. It has to be done. It's definitely not my favorite activity, but it has to be done. Now, fortunately, the guns that I use most are Smith & Wesson M&Ps and Glocks. So they don't need a tremendous amount of cleaning, but you do need to clean them. Anybody that says, I haven't cleaned my gun in 30,000 rounds, I don't think that's very smart. Maybe your gun can go 30,000 rounds without a cleaning. I just don't think that's a smart thing to do.
Don't do that with your carry guns. You're depending your life on it. If you've got a test gun that you want to go and see how long it'll go, but most of those guys are not as, how to put it, honest as they think they are. They overestimate the amount of rounds that they shot. And then a lot of them will say, well, I haven't cleaned it, but I oil it every 500 rounds. So yeah, if you do that, your gun will go probably forever. But, do you get a chance to break down your gun all the time? And then when you're actually cleaning your gun, it's, I hate to use this term, but it's almost self-cleaning as you're shooting it, because all the stuff and all the parts are moving, and it's moving at a great rate and huge pressures, and all the crap gets blown out of your gun when you're shooting it. It's when you're not shooting it that I found my guns get the worst. So I got this idea because I pulled apart my carry gun 2 days ago to take pictures of it for another project I'm doing, and it was absolutely filthy. I mean, there was like dust bunnies inside my gun that were stuck to the oil that had now dried, and I took it apart, and I was just trying to do pictures, and when I took it apart, my hands and fingers were black from the carbon and all the crap in there, and I'm like, I should be cleaning my gun more often.
You should be cleaning.
I'll bet most of you are like me, that we don't clean our guns as often as we should. So I thought we'd get on here and we'd talk about it, and Bob can talk about his special stuff, and I can talk to you about my minimalist cleaning kit that I use that is, I think it's the way to go. I've had all of the kits, and you know what? I think for $25, maybe 30, I've got everything I need to clean almost everything. And it's only because I have one part that's $25. Everything else is almost worthless.
Well, mine's pretty minimalist too, and I may only have about $25 or $30 invested in mine. So let's start with the field strip. So I'll use my Glock for an example here. All right, for everybody who's not used to doing this, the very first thing, magazine out, inspect the magazine. One good thing about the new Glocks with the orange followers, if I see that orange follower, guess what I know? The magazine is empty. So I got the magazine out. Now I want to work the slide 3 times. You can also work it like this if you want. Okay, 3 times. So what does that do? That takes out whatever round that might be in the chamber. I got to stop right here for 20 seconds and say, this is the part many people screw up. And that's why, oh, my gun accidentally went off when I was cleaning it. Baloney. Guns don't accidentally go off when you're cleaning them. The reason why they go off is you left a round in the chamber and you pressed the trigger. So after you have cleared the gun, now lock the slide back and open it and look inside. Do a visual inspection, okay? Look, and it also is not a bad idea. Put your finger in there to see if you can feel around in there. Okay, now I know my gun is clear. Even if you have a gun where you don't have to pull the trigger to disassemble it, please go through these steps. All right, so I know my gun is clear now. Now I can go through the field stripping process, and it's pretty simple here. I don't have on this one. There we go. Okay, so now I got it basically in half. All right, and what I want to do is I want to pull the recoil spring out, get that out of there. Pull the barrel out, get that out of there. And you can't see it on my table, but my gun is now in 4 parts. The 4 parts are the frame, the slide, the barrel, and the recoil spring assembly.
That's for a field clean. Yeah, that's as far as you need to go for a field clean. You don't need to go any further than that.
5 parts.
And 90% of the time, 99% of the time. You don't even need to go any farther than that on our modern striker guns. I'll go, if you're a heavy user and you carry it every day, about every 5 years, you should go further into your gun than that. If you're
Yeah.
not a heavy user, about every 10 years, you should go a little further into your gun with that, especially if you're using a modern striker fired gun. This is my Smith & Wesson Shield. Bob's got his Glocks over there. Anything like that, you're using the CZP-10, the new SIG 320, the 365,
The Rugers.
Ruger, anything. I can't think of all of them because there's a million different companies making a Glock now.
HKVP9.
But either way, yeah, you don't have to go to any deeper than that. That's it. You don't have to start pulling pins. You don't need punches. None of that stuff.
Yeah, now that's a very good point, Ben. Very good point. Now the next thing I do in cleaning is I take the frame and I give it to my wife and say, "Please put it in the dishwasher tonight." No. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That's a big joke about Glocks and polymer guns. Okay, so actually the next step is I like to take a little swab or brush or something like this, and I just clean out the slide rails up and down. Just clean out the slide rails just like that. See, look at that. One swipe on the slide rails. Let's get this in front of the camera. Look at all the gunk that came out of there. Just one swipe. And I probably haven't cleaned this in the last probably 3,000 or 4,000 rounds. So here, one swipe. Yeah, one swipe on each slide rail, and look at that brush. Ha, look at that. That's just one swipe on each. So look how much junk I took out of the gun. But that's about it. I just want to make sure that those rails are clean. It's also not a bad idea to clean this right here, the breech face right there where the striker hits the rounds. What do you do with your slide, Ben?
I use my minimalist kit right here. This is a T-shirt that I cut up. So it's very expensive.
Yep.
And actually, I like to use purposely built brushes for it. This is, these are $2 from just about anywhere, maybe $3. You can use a toothbrush that just has the big side. I like these because it has the little side. And really, all I'll do is wrap some of this T-shirt on the little side of the brush, and then I'll wipe out all those rails, and I just start wiping everything down. And you can see that there's a different color black in there. If everything's not the same color black, it's because you got dirt and grime in there. And just if I wipe it down a little bit, this T-shirt is starting to turn black. I'll just wipe everything down. If it's not coming off, the other thing I'll do is I will take a drop of oil, anything cleaning, CLP, put it on the brush, and just scrub it all for a little bit, and then wipe it all off with a rag. So
by the way, I got
cleaning stuff.
I got a minimalist T-shirt too. See.
And then I guess we could talk about oils right now and what we'd use, what we don't use. You know what? I don't care what you use. Everything has its ups and its downs. I suggest you use some kind of CLP. That stands for cleaner, lubricant, and preservative, which means it does all three. And I found that some of them do other things better than others, like the Break Free, the original CLP the military uses where it came from. That stuff is caustic, but you know what? It works awesome as a cleaner, especially if you have rust and grime in there. It really does a good job on that stuff. There's Frog Lube. Frog Lube is an okay lubricant, amazing preservative, and not the greatest cleaner. And I've been using
like Militech. Militech works well for me.
I haven't used that stuff and tested. I probably should. I've been using this RAND CLP. It used to be called Viking Tactical RAND CLP. You can get it on Amazon and stuff, super cheap. That's why I like it. It works decently as a cleaner and decently as a lubricant. Not the greatest protector in the world. So if you have a show piece that you want to keep, it's not the stuff I'd use. And then I have this stuff, the Slip 2000. Not a great cleaner. Works amazing as a freaking lubricant. And then it works okay as a preservative for me. So, and I've tested these by throwing stuff out in the backyard for a week at a time in my garden. So that's always fun. But so I just use this stuff. It's super cheap. You buy it by the bottle like this. I love the little turn cap it has on it. I don't like these freaking long. What a
I don't like
to use.
Those things either.
Actually use this. It seems like a great idea. These are the best. So just 1 or 2 drops works everywhere. And Bob's got the same thing with the Militech, has that same little cap on it. It works great. So just FYI, if you get a thing that says cleaner, lubricant, preservative on it, works as all three, you're
Yep.
set. You can use it for everything, and that's why I like it, because I don't have to worry about it. And the really reason I like it is because I've used a lot of cleaners in the past. If you don't get all that cleaner off of your gun after you clean it, it kind of gels and mucks up is the problem.
Yeah.
And then you have this gel in your gun, and that's one of the things that'll make it fail. The cleaner, lubricant, preservative, if you leave a little bit on it after cleaning it, it's a lubricant and a preservative, so it's not going to gel and muck up like that as often.
Yeah.
I have let some of the stuff sit for, I don't know, years in the gun safe, and after years, and I forget what brands, because I have to let it sit there for 3 or 4 years, and then
Uh-huh.
it'll start gelling up a little bit. And I think the Militech will do that if you let it sit there for 2 or 3 years and you don't touch it. But
If
yeah,
you let it sit for 2 or 3 years, yeah, it
so
will
who
do that.
cares?
Yeah, but I'm not gonna let it sit for 2 or 3 years. So, all right. So can I start with the barrel next?
Yeah, so all you gotta
Okay.
do is wipe all that stuff out, and then you're good.
Yep. So with the barrel, what I like to do is before I do any kind of lubricating, this is a great item right here. It's called a bore snake. Okay, and
And that's the
this
most
base
expensive item in my kit.
it's the most expensive item in my kit too. I like to put a little. By the way, I like to put a little bore solvent, just a little bit of bore solvent, not oil, but a little bit of bore solvent right here. And then I just take this and I just run this bore snake through my barrel. Now, this is not a thorough cleaning, but let me tell you what, you do this a couple times running that through your barrel, and it's going to take probably 85 to 90% of the junk out of there. What's really cool is you can use this at the range, and you don't even have to take the barrel out of your gun to run the bore snake through it and clean it. So I do that, and then I take oil and here's the key. I only put one, and I mean only one drop right there at the tip of the barrel. And when it gets on there, I just kind of even it out with my finger, and that's it. That's all I put on the barrel. What do you do, Ben?
That's it. I've got the bore snake, and with my minimalist kit, this is the most expensive piece. These are
Yep.
15 to $25, and I
Yep,
have the
that's right.
original bore snake, and I'll just run it through there a couple times. I will use some of my CLP on there because it's the only thing I have and sitting
Oh,
around.
okay.
I would not do it on one of my precision guns.
I
I'd be
use.
afraid. Yeah, I'd be afraid to mess up my shots on the precision guns by putting oil on there. My carry
Right.
guns, not really. So I'll just run that through once or twice, and always run it from or through the same way the bullet would come through the gun. Always push all that stuff out. Don't go the back ways. And then sometimes I put a drop there. Sometimes I forget and just don't care. The other thing I worry about, and I actually keep clean, is the feed ramp on the barrel. You look at back here, this little
Yeah.
part right there, that's the
Good
shiny
point.
part, or it should be shiny. When you look at it and you fire a couple rounds, yeah, it's black, and that's not the camera showing it's black. It's just black. I will just take my rag and rub that until it's
Yeah.
shiny again.
I don't put oil there though. Some people I've
Oh
seen
no.
people put oil. I would not recommend putting oil there. Only place I put oil on the barrel, Ben, is right here on the end of it.
And that's where it touches the end of your slide and it sits there to lock up. Nope,
Yep.
I don't got any problem with that. The thing that people forget about oil is that wherever you put oil, it will attract dust
Yep.
and grime. And if you put a lot of oil there, that dust will become mud. And if you put enough mud in any gun in any spot, it's going to fail you. So don't do that.
No, I don't do that.
That's why I
Now
use a little
next,
bit.
next I take the barrel, I put it back into the slide, just like that, and I put the recoil spring assembly back in, just like this. So now the recoil assembly is back in the slide, but I'm not done with the slide yet.
And
So now what I do?
don't oil the recoil spring assembly.
Yes.
Every
Yes.
gun company everywhere will tell you do not oil that. And if every single gun company from Glock to Smith and Wesson to Colt can agree on that one thing, don't
Then
think you
maybe
listen
you
to
shouldn't do it.
don't listen to one of us stupid podcasters or internet gurus that will tell you that they know better and this is what you're supposed to do.
You mean the
Unless
YouTube experts?
yeah, unless it's a specialized gun that your user's manual tells you to oil it,
Yeah.
don't do it.
No. And this is where your brush, Ben, can come in handy too. Once you got the slide put back together, brushing all that stuff out in there, probably dry brush. Now, all I do once I got the slide put together like this, I just put one drop down one slide rail, One drop, that's it. Another drop down the other slide rail, and that's it. And I just kind of hold it like this for a while so that the oil goes down the slide rails all the way. And I'm satisfied with the upper of this pistol. It's cleaned and oiled so far to my satisfaction. What about you?
So yeah, me and Bob have 90% of the same thing. Most of the time, I'll omit putting the oil on the barrel because I just don't care. But I will do the same exact thing. I put a drop in each side of the slide rail, and then actually I'm lazy and I will take the whole side assembly. This one stands up. Some of the Glocks don't, and I will
Yep.
just stand it up on my desk
Yep. Stand it up.
or my workstation and let that oil flow while I work on the frame.
While you work on the frame, yeah. Now I just I take the brush. I do have a brush like yours. I don't have it here for the video, and I brush out the whole inside of the frame, and I just brush it. And sometimes, now I'm going to say something a little controversial here, but it does work, folks. I don't do this all the time. Sometimes I do take gun scrubber, and I
Yeah.
just spray it in there. I know you don't like that, but I do that. Um, Not very often, but the best thing is a good brush, and just brush the crap out of it. Yep, with an you can even just take an old toothbrush, and don't forget in here, by the way, if you're brushing and cleaning, don't forget inside the um, magazine well stuff in there too, because junk gets in there. Trust me, it does. And once you got basically the frame wiped out or brushed out, which is better. Again, the brush is better.
I like the brush because there's all these little tiny nooks and crannies in there. But if you
Huh?
brush it, it gets in there and it gets most of it out. And I'm kind of afraid around my computer and my keyboard that I'm getting all this gunk out. And
Yeah,
if you
be
look
careful with that.
when I started with this brush, if you can see it, it's no longer bright blue. It was brand new when I pulled it out of the bag just now to do this video, and now it's got black all over it. That's from my gun. But all you got to do is brush all the little bits and pieces. And when you look in there, if you've been shooting or carrying your gun a bunch, you'll see that the black of your frame is a different color black where you
Yep.
brush it and where you haven't. And you'll see that that's all carbon and gross buildup and nasty stuff that you don't want in your gun that you can get out of there. I am a big believer in that crap migrates. So where
Mhm.
you leave it, it's going to migrate to where you don't want it. So around those new moving parts is where I don't really want any of the gunk, and then I'll just get it off of the rest of the parts so it doesn't all migrate. And not that it's a big problem. If you field strip your gun once every crap, I probably do it once every 8 months, and you'll be more than
About right.
good. So it doesn't have to be super duper clean. In the Marine Corps, they taught us to get every speck of dust, every inch of everything everywhere, and then scrub the crap out of it. And you know what happened? I had guns that were two different colors because they've been scrubbed so much and the finish was gone.
Yeah.
Don't scrub the finish off of your gun. You can actually clean
No.
your gun to the point where you damage the firearm. So don't do that. All you
No.
got to do is, and me and Bob are both on the same page. We are totally functionally clean on this stuff. I don't want a gun. I'm not doing museum pieces. If I was
Nope.
doing that, I'd have little white Q-tips and little white rags
Yeah.
and I'd have white gloves on, and then that's how I'd be cleaning it, and it would be with a different kind of oil than I use. I would be making it perfect. But for me, nope, I'm just
Nope.
the functionally clean guy.
And
So
I
all
found
of
a
that,
brush.
there you go. While
I
you were
found a brush.
talking, all of that, it's all done. I'm all
Yep.
set. Now, on your Glock, Bob, you can talk about this because you're a super duper Glock guy. There is actually a spot that you want to oil on your frame.
Yeah.
You
Hard
know that
to.
one spot?
Yeah, it's going to be hard to show, but it's right about, right about there. And there's that little lip. There's that little lip that's by the trigger bar. That see if I can show you this. This little ear that sticks up there. I just put one drop of oil right behind that. There's this cross right here on a Glock. Let's see if I can show it to you. There's a cross here, and then there's a little ear, looks like a dog ear right up there. I just take a drop. It's kind of hard. Maybe I'll see if I can take some pictures. And I drop one drop of oil right there, just like that. Bingo. And my goal with that is I just try to get that to go down into the trigger parts, the fire control parts in there, so that it lubricates that a lot and keeps the trigger pull nice and crisp. That's the only place on the frame that I put any oil.
Yeah, on the Smith and Wesson, you could do it a couple places if you were really trying to eke out everything on your gun. But for
Yep.
me, I'm afraid it's going to gather dirt, and those little moving parts aren't going to work. On my Glocks, I never oiled the frames. Might be why I ran out of. One of the Glocks I did wear out at about 30,000 rounds. If I had put that one drop of oil there, and it was the trigger mechanism and the trigger bar that ran out,
Yeah.
wore out. So if I did that, it probably wouldn't have wore out. So
But the
put that
key, one
one
drop of
drop.
oil, not 4 drops, 5 drops, one. As a matter of fact, I don't know where I saw this. Maybe it was in a Glock manual or something like that, and this pretty much applies to any pistol. 4 to 6 drops of oil total. That's it. 4 to 6 drops. 2 of them being on the slide rails. The one on the barrel, that's 3. Here's my fourth, and maybe one tiny drop where you think it might be needed, and that's it.
And then once you're got your frame oiled,
Yeah.
all you gotta do is take your slide, put it back on the frame,
Yep.
and
Now, Ben, let me stop you right there real quick. You're real good at explaining this. Explain why not a lot of oil. Why do you want to do a minimalist amount of oil on your gun?
mud is the easiest way I can say that. And I am super minimalist when it comes to the oil because anywhere you put oil will gather dust. Anywhere you put liquid will gather dust and grime. Doesn't matter. Oil is just a liquid that really doesn't evaporate and doesn't go away. And some of
Yeah.
them have this huge viscosity, which really means how hot it needs to get to break down. But go ahead, try this in your backyard. Take a spot and put one drop of oil on anything that doesn't absorb it. That's not wood, so a piece of plastic or even a piece of paper. And then on the other one, put like 10 drops and set it out, I don't know, in your garden or something, and come back in a day or two and see which one looks more disgusting and which one doesn't. I know
Yeah.
that's a super simplest view of this, but let's face it, even me, and I consider myself an avid shooter, and I probably shoot 10 times more than most people do. I carry the gun a lot more than I shoot it. So I
Me
don't
too.
need that oil. If I'm going to go shoot 1,000 rounds in a day, yeah, I'm going to oil the crap out of my gun because I know that thing's going to get super hot and that friction on all those parts is going to start breaking down that oil and it's going to start disappearing and kind of, lack of a better term, no science here, that it's going to evaporate. So it just kind of disappears and goes off into Never Never Land. If I'm just carrying it, I just need enough oil that it stays there and is present for when I need to shoot it. And if you think about your self-defense shootings, I know we can say 3 to 5 rounds, blah, 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 statistics all day. But in reality, in a defensive situation, you will never shoot more ammo than you are carrying at that time. So if
Correct.
you're like me, you carry one mag in the gun and one on your side. So in the shield, that gives me a total of 18 rounds. Two set
Yep.
or yeah,
Eight plus one.
2 8-round magazines and one in the hole. So my gun needs to shoot 17 times and it needs to have enough oil on it to shoot 17 times. But there are a little different things sometimes with the oil. And I will go that sometimes you're going to need more than if you don't, because you need it as a preservative too. So if you live in high areas like you live in Miami, Florida, where it's always like you're walking around with a wet towel around your face, you're going to need a little bit more oil to actually preserve the gun, and you're going to need a little bit more oil for it to stay on there too. Because what is water? Water is really a solvent. It has a pH of 0. That's where we get the solvent pH balance from, is water.
Yeah.
But the more water there is in the air, the more water on your gun, the more it's going to act like a solvent and it's going to wash away that oil. So you need to be a little bit heavier on the oil to make it work. And your environment is different. So when I was in Iraq, man, the oil on my gun, I would wipe off everything with a rag. And to oil the gun, I would take a Q-tip, put a drop of oil on there, and then I would paint with that Q-tip where I wanted oil on the gun. That was it. That's how I got the oil on the gun. And then I would just walk around with that all day because it was so dry and so dusty and such fine particles that if I use full drops of oil, if I use 4 drops of oil on my Glock would fail in a week. I'd have to
Yep.
clean it every day. My AR, my M16, holy snot. Most of the time, you know what I did? I oiled that thing up once and then I wiped it off every single day. I just kept wiping off the oil because it's so dry. The oil all comes to the surface and it just keeps itself kind of self-oiling. But every day I would take apart my bolt carrier group when I was in combat. I just pull out the bolt carrier group. I wipe it down, wipe all the inside out, get all the dust and grime out of there, and put it back together. I think I used 1 drop on it a month to keep that gun running. So
Yep.
that's
And you were
how
in the
big you go.
desert
Yeah.
fighting.
So, and then here it's different. I use 4 drops on my gun, just like everything says. Really, so I use 3 drops, and then that's plenty. And I'm here down here in South Texas where it gets pretty bad. If you're on the coast somewhere, where there's salt water, you can double the water effects that salt water has on your gun. So you probably want to double the oil. I might put 2 drops if I lived on the ocean all the time. So just
Okay.
kind of think of your environment and where you live and how salty it is and how things break down. But that's half of it to keep it oil, and the other half is just to keep that thing from rusting.
So good information, Ben. Yeah, like I said, you're good at explaining that about oiling. So we're pretty much done now. You can put the magazine back in, load it up, and chamber around, and you can feel good. Now, what we just did applies pretty much to the striker fired guns. An exception, I think, would be the 1911s. They tend to need a little bit more oil than, but not over oil. Uh, I have read about people that say, "Oh, I run my 1911 extremely wet. It's got to be extremely wet." And they act like there has to be oil dripping out of the gun or it's not going to run. I don't I've had a lot of 1911s and I don't recall ever having to make them run that wet. What do you think?
Well, carrying it becomes the problem. So I carried a
Yeah.
1911 for an armored car company for 6 years, some here in Texas and a lot in California, and some on the coast. I actually worked in Long Beach for a while on the coast, so that was fun. But the 1911 just needs to be clean to run.
Yeah.
So if you oil it up every day and you keep it wet, that oil is actually cleaning your gun like
Yep.
a solvent when you're pushing it through. I would take the gun apart and I would field strip it at least once a week and clean it and re-oil it. So I'd clean off all the oil, put new oil on it, and I oiled it. And it was a 1911 down. I oiled it like I do my Glock. I would use 2 drops on the frame, and 1 on the frame, 1 on the slide, really, where the slide rails go, 1 around the barrel, and there was one other spot that the para ordnance wanted to have, and I forget what it was. It's been so many years that I would put in around the trigger mechanism, and that wasn't to keep the trigger functioning well. That was to keep it from rusting inside there because there's like 5 or
Yeah.
10 moving metal parts on each other that if they rust, you ruin your trigger press and everything else. But I would have to do that all the time. So I figured when I carried a para ordnance every day, open, exposed, I'd want to clean that thing once a week, once every other week if I really pushed it. My
Yeah.
Glocks and my Glocks, I figured out that I need to carry when I carry that one every day. I need to clean it once every 6 months because it starts to get grimy and starts to run slow, and I'd start to have some malfunctions in. The Smith and Wessons, I'm going 8 to 10 months on mine without any problem. And really, it was I pulled apart my carry gun and went, "Oh my God, this thing is disgusting," and so I cleaned it. It wasn't because I was like. And mostly it was because I wanted to take pictures of it, and I can't have like globs of dirt in there for the picture. I've found that the
Yeah, it
Smith and
doesn't look
Wesson
good.
is it's just super duper doesn't care. So I kind of like that about the Smiths. Glocks, I mean, once every 6 months. Come on, me and Bob both cleaned 2 of our carry guns while we're sitting here talking for 10 minutes, and we're talking to you while we're doing it. So once every 6 months, you can break down your stupid Glock or your whatever gun you carry and wipe it down, put a little fresh oil on there, and then put it back together. The last
Yep.
thing I would say is I like to do a function check on all my guns once I put them back together. You have to really screw up putting your Glock together or your any striker fired gun so that it doesn't work. But that's always a last test. If I can't fire it, I always want to, make sure it's clear. I will double check again, let it go, and I want to make sure it goes click. And then when I cycle it, I want to make sure you get the little pop when it comes back when you let it out. So if you hear the click and the pop like you're supposed to, you're good. If you have a gun with a safety, make sure the safety is working like it's supposed to. Those are the major things that you can screw up when you put your gun back together.
Yep.
And
Perfect.
after you do that a couple times, whatever you screwed up putting together, it will not work, and you won't have an issue. Let's put it this way: you will know that you screwed it up, and the gun will tell you because it will quit going
The
click, and
gun will tell you.
the
Yep.
slide won't move. There's all sorts of things that will happen if you screw it up real bad. So always just double check it. It takes you 2 seconds, and then you're ready to load the gun back up and carry for your carry.
Well, my last words are this: clean your guns. I
Uh,
hate doing it. I hate doing it, but I force myself to do it. That's it. That's it for me. Oh, by the way, more videos like this. Where can they find them, Ben?
you're getting ahead of me. How about one more minute?
One more minute. Go ahead.
I have this big Smith & Wesson. I have a story behind the Smith. I got it, and I was like, ooh, I'm so excited to shoot it. I went out and started shooting it, and very quickly, after about 100, 150 rounds, I couldn't get the cylinder to move. And the trigger, I was like, ugh, and I had to cock it to make it work. And I was like, what the heck? You actually have to oil your revolver too. Look at the places where the revolver moves. The cylinder is the big one, and the star. So I like to just put a drop in here around the cylinder and let it spin in, and then wipe off the excess. And then if you look, when you press the ejector up, you see it wet in there from dropping it down in the cylinder, you're set, and that's all you need.
All right, good stuff. Tell our listeners where they can find more good videos like this.
Well, modernhandgunners.com is the place to go to find all of our stuff. And me and Bob keep putting out more and more stuff, so it's going to be fun. Our first 10 or 12 videos were all on the range. We had such a fun time shooting them and shooting all the guns and everything and explaining it to you. We are sad that we can't get out and do that right now, and now our videos are just Skype, but we can give you the stuff like how to clean your gun and, kind of the stuff that you can use to clean your gun, and you don't need to buy a $400 kit. And I actually have the super duper awesome kit that somebody gave me standing around. These things were all the rage for a while. They were $50 to $100 for a stupid kit like that. And I never use the stupid thing because all the little parts are in here. Even this one I added a freaking bore snake to, so it would work for me. And then all the little parts and pieces, they have this little thing and they all fall out and I never can find them. And you have to screw it all together. And it is just, no thanks. These are like $50 to $100. And somehow they sold them to the military. And no, you don't need all that crap. You saw what Bob and I used. If you want to be minimalist, you need an old T-shirt you can cut up. You need to buy one of these bore snakes, and they're proprietary for each caliber. You need a little brush. I actually like the $2 or $3 actual. I mean, if you buy them at the stand at your gun shop, they're $2.99 each. You can get them on Amazon for $1.50, and then any kind of CLP you got. And so you can get your kit for $20 or $30. And then I put mine in this like husky bag that I got from Home Depot, and everything just fits in here, and it's nice and tough and sturdy, and I don't have any problem with it. So I have the ultimate cleaning kit to go to the range with me for, $30. If you want to do super duper, the other thing I bought and I carry with me is one of these old school military ones. And I carry that. It comes with a brush. I don't really care, but I can put extra patches in here if I want, because I like to use patches sometimes. And the other thing it comes with that I think everybody should have in their kit going to the range are rods. I can screw the rods together.
Absolutely, rods, yeah.
And bang out a squib round or a stuck piece of brass out of any rifle or pistol out there on the range. And that's really the only reason I carry this for, is to get these extra rods in there. Everything else is kind of, I don't think I ever use anything else out of these kits. I just want those rods.
There's one in my range bag too. All right.
Yeah. Look what I got. Can you identify that?
I got a Glock punch. You have a Glock punch. I have one of those too. There's always a Glock punch like that. And by the way, it works on almost any gun. And I got one in my range bag. Those are awesome.
And then the last thing I carry with me is this tiny little screwdriver I got from electronics place, but it has all the little bits that come out, and Torx bits and Phillips and everything. So I can, if I have to, I can tighten something up.
I need to get one of those. I don't have one of those.
Altex here in San Antonio sells them in about 1 billion different colors for like $4.
And you got nice pink. All right. Yes.
I got pink on purpose so nobody would run off with mine.
All right, folks. Also, please find us at the Shooters Club. We do a lot of instructional videos like this. You do have to pay for it. It's a way that you can support the work that Ben and I do, but it's only $8 a month, and there's very good videos just like this one at the Shooters Club. It's called shootersclubmembers.com. That's shootersclubmembers.com. And every week you and I put out a podcast. I put out the Handgun World podcast. What's yours, Ben?
I put out the Modern Self-Protection podcast at modernselfprotection.com. Super easy. We're easy to find everywhere. Go check us out. While Bob's talking, I'm actually oiling my revolver because it is really
There you go. And please subscribe to this channel at Modern Handgunners. So, with all this said, Modern Handgunners out.